What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man. I'm super happy to be back, and we are back better than ever. We got my good friend Jon Mangano. But I said I've been practicing that. I've been practicing. I've been
You got to
practicing
look in the
all
mirror.
day. I
You got to look
swear
in
to
the
you.
mirror and say it 5 times fast.
Yeah, I've been practicing. I know people call it man. They do the manjan right Mangano or something like that. How do
Yeah,
they?
they call me Mango. They call me everything, but it's Mangano.
It's Mangano, right? Mangano, Jon Mangano. What's going on, John? Sorry for butchering. You and I both have the butcher last name anyway. Kowaleski. Nobody knows how to say. But my homie John is on the podcast today. Super happy. It's been in the books for a while, and now we got a chance to actually sit down. John, we met back through BNI, the Power BNI, and I've talked about that before. It's a group where we get together, talk business. Ultimately, the idea is to pass referrals back and forth, make some money, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it comes down to connections, and that's what we've done here, created a great connection. So, John, man, what's going on, man? How's everything going with you?
Good. Another day, another dollar, as they say.
Another day, another dollar. I know, man. When I first met you, I remember you told me some of the stories in terms of your entrepreneurial journey, things that you've been been going through and going on. What's the main goal right now? I guess in terms of business, and I would assume it's similar to everybody else. Everybody wants to make enough money to not have to do the shit that they don't want to do, right? So where are
Well,
you at right now?
that's part of it. I mean, where we're at is moved up to Palm Coast, as you know, a year ago, as we've discussed probably 100 times. I'm
Yeah.
now, restarted my life, restarted a business from scratch. I can't complain. We got 3 trucks on the road, and I mean, the goal is every year I set a goal, and then I set a reach goal, right? So I have, the goal that, hey, I have to reach. Like this year was, I had to, put 2 men solidly in a truck, and also buy myself a brand new pickup truck. That was my goal for 2024. Is now, we're going into June, or we're in June. My reach goal for 2024 was to buy a third van, and either, by I don't know, grace of God, have enough work to put a full-time employee in that van, or have that third van where, hey, look, if we have those extra calls, I could jump in it, pick up those couple extra calls on a need be basis, and then once again, the goals start all over again the following year, for 2025.
Nice. So you crush them goals. So that goal is really like your visual thing that you're like, I'm gonna overcome this thing. I'm gonna do it no matter what. Um,
Correct.
and is that what fires you up in the morning? That is that what gets you going?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess as a young man, I mean, I'm 41, so I'll call myself
God
young. But
damn! You
I
sound
mean, I mean, look, what keeps me going every day, and I need a direction. There's been
Mm,
periods in my life where I didn't have a direction, and I don't want to say I was floundering, but I was floundering.
mm,
So every time I set a goal, my job is to crush it. That is my goal. Once I crush it, I make the next one a little bit harder,
mm.
and so on and so forth, until, well, once again, we're at the top of the food chain, top of the pyramid, and that's the idea behind it. For me, it's not so much make enough money where I don't have to work anymore. My goal in my life is always to become a developer. Like, I've always wanted to. As funny as it says, I used to joke around. I always wanted to be like Tony Stark. I wanted a skyscraper with my name on it. That's my goal. I mean, that's probably a couple of years out, hopefully, but that's always been my goal. Everything I was always, even when I was in New York, I was working towards it. Got my general contractor's license, so on and so forth. But that was always my goal, was to use plumbing as a step stool, or a stepping stone, I should say, to reach that final ultimate goal of becoming a developer.
Cool. So you want to develop like what areas, buildings, things like that, like
I
constructions?
wanted to, well, first I want to start off by developing my own piece of land and put a
Mm,
building on it. You know what I'm saying? And then I wanted to take the next step, would be possibly a housing development, or another commercial, larger location with national food chains, kind of like the BJ's off of 100, that type of stuff. And that's what once I get into the development stage, then the goals start all over again. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Now, hey,
Yeah.
we've reached this lower goal. Now we got to go to the next one, so on and so forth.
I like it, dude. I like it. So let's talk a little bit about where this goal setting mindset has come from. And I'm assuming that you've gotten really good at it in terms of like understanding, like pushing yourself. Now, and yeah, so let's talk about that because then I have a follow-up question in terms of like, have you actually like not hit a goal, and then how's that been? Or maybe you have hit goals. But let's go back. Where does this influence of like goal setting comes from? Like you said that you were floundering for a minute. take us back in that position when you were floundering. Like what was your aha moment? What was that like? Where were you? Was it New York? Was it here? And then how did you
So,
overcome that?
we all have a identity, and as silly as those things are, I was Jon Mangano in New York. I owned a plumbing company, construction company, etc. But I always joke around, and it sounds weirdly arrogant and silly, but my company, I never pumped my own gas. I had a gas station. I had an attendant. He pumped my gas. It was kind of weird when I moved down to Florida. That didn't exist, and I had to pump my own gas. And that,
Right.
not that I ever had a problem. I don't want to say like not that I ever had a problem. Like I'm not that bougie, but it was just like when you pull up to the gas station here. Hey, good morning, Mr. Mangano. How's your day? Well,
Yeah.
here's your coffee. So you're used. So when I moved down here, that all disappeared. I don't want to say a nobody, but I didn't know anybody. I was just a
Right.
part of the cog in the wheel. When when I had first moved down here, I went down to West Palm. I was working as an operations manager for another company, and I wasn't the one calling the shots, which that's what I gave up of running my own company. But the problem became was I didn't have a direction. There was no goals to hit, so there was nobody saying like, "Hey, and when you're working in a large company, okay, in a corporation, they're not about your goals. They have, and if you're not on the next level, okay, you're not inside the inner circle.
Mm.
Okay. And at the end of the day, you're not the ultimate decision maker. So what became to happen was I was almost felt like I was in a period of I don't say transformation, but transformation. I had to refine myself again. I had to regather myself back up.
What were some of those thoughts that were going in your head? Were you like, man, what am I doing? Am I not like
Very, very much so. What am I doing? Did I make the right decision? Hey, look, I had this identity. I no longer have this identity anymore.
and wait, for the listeners that may not know the full story, like right while you were working for a corporation because you ultimately sold your business, right, to
Correct.
that corporation.
Well,
Is that
no, no.
right?
I sold my business to a conglomerate up in New York.
Okay.
I moved down here and started working for a
Got it.
corporation as an operations manager for a plumbing
Got
company.
it.
So I was very, I don't want to say lost, but I was lost. I didn't, I lost my identity. It took me a while to figure it out. And that, that led to a lot of things. There was some other things going on in my life with, I'll say my ex-wife, my kids, etc. Very dark place in my life, depression, so on and so forth. Which thank God, as things have turned out, I've been able to work my way out of. I'd say, probably to jump ahead a little bit to one of the questions you're going to ask, that the hardest times have been dealing with depression. That's been one of my. It really is been or I should say, people don't kid around. It's a silent killer,
Mm.
because even though even for myself, you joke and you laugh, and obviously you know me on a more personal basis than your
Yeah.
listeners do. Sometimes I try to be the clown in the room, and even though you may be the clown in the room, the inside is not so good. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
right,
saying?
right.
So,
And
and
that's almost like that we use that, right? We use that as our almost like our shield or thing to like be like, no, we're good. This is how we do it. But yeah, no,
right,
I've been
right.
there. Yeah, I've been there for sure.
So, but look, I mean, my non-compete ended. I decided to move up to beautiful Palm Coast. I moved here because of my sister and my niece. They're right around the block from me because I wanted to be close to them.
Yeah, me
And
too.
I truthfully, it was I had taken this year I was turned 41. Last year I was 40, and I took off. And,
That's how it works, right?
yeah. And I truthfully, I traveled the United States by motorcycle, and truthfully, it allowed me to clear my head, refine, the whatever, point the compass north, and
Yeah.
figure out and say, hey, look, I got to go back to being me. I can't be this person no more. This is not who I am. And really, I mean, I can't. If you're lucky enough where you can physically take off a month and travel, obviously for us it's motorcycles, but travel in general, get away from um, uh, the everyday life
Yeah.
things that hold you back. It really allows you to see the forest through the trees, as opposed to being with the taxes and
Being
mortgage
stuck every
payments,
day in the same
yeah,
fucking
rent,
matrix.
and
Yeah.
a car broke. It allows you to really free your mind and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And that's really, once I made that decision to say to myself, I'm not going to be that person anymore. I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going to allow it. I'm not going to allow those intrusive thoughts into my head anymore. I'm gonna go back to being who I am, which is a monster, and I'm going to kill it in business,
Right.
So,
Right. Awesome.
um,
So let me ask you, like, those. I guess it's because, all right, when I change certain aspects of my being, I realized that it was the feeling I don't want to feel anymore, and I realized that it was like I don't want to feel this way anymore. Hence, I'm going to do something different, or I'm going to like change my direction.
right.
Is that like I guess my question is for the listeners too, and for like the story is like there was the moment you sold, and then there was that like lack of goal. Was that where that feeling that you didn't have that drive of like being the monster, like being like that, the lion kind of thing, and that
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
died a little bit in you?
you go from what do I do now?
Mm,
Right? What do I do now? I made enough money to buy a house. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't, I didn't sell my business and be like, oh, well, I'm going to retire for the rest of my life, or
right.
and once again, I mean, yeah, of course, that's when it started.
Mm,
Because you're now, um, you're part of the entity, even like the business I have now. I am part of the entity. It consumes my life.
right.
So, it's twofold, and as you know, with even your podcast, you're the entity.
Right.
So, when you don't have that anymore, it gets very confusing very, very fast.
Right.
Along with moving away from friends and not knowing anybody, so on and so forth. You have to rebuild up that whole foundation that you had.
100%. So take
So
me
it's
through it a little bit of that. Like so once you lost that, or once that mental like, issue, not issue, but that whatever was going on in your mind, how did that then start seeping into like the relationships, and then how did that slowly work itself to where you had to like obviously split and then make the decision to go on your own, and then I'm assuming part of that was moving away to Florida closer to family. Is that right?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to quote a Godfather quote and say they made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
Mm,
When I was up in New York, it's a once in a lifetime deal. You gotta weigh all your apples. At the time, I was ready to, do something different.
right.
When I came down here, I was facing once again some things with my ex-wife and my children that weighed very, very heavy on me. Extremely heavy. Probably that most men don't really talk about.
Which
But
would be what?
well, which would be the loss of my children. So I was in the middle of a child, what's the word I'm looking for? I apologize. Basically a custody battle.
Right.
And when you move away, and not that I want to put all my dirty laundry out there, but when you move away, people capitalize on saying certain things to your children and use that to their advantage, which was not remotely the truth. Obviously, I moved away because I sold my business. Um, did not mean I did not want to see my children anymore. Did not mean that they were not uh, welcome to be a part of my life. Now, also keep in mind, COVID was going on. Certain people use that to their advantage. Um, so it was just a very bad combination. My entire life, I was a dad. That's
Right.
always, that I always wanted to grow up and be a dad. That was my goal in life. That was, for all intents and purposes, removed from my ability to be able to do that. So it was a combination of losing my identity, not just as a business owner, but as a father.
Mm,
Um, Fighting a battle I couldn't win. Spending countless thousands of dollars on it. And then it also seeps into your personal relationships where, from the situation I was in, a lot of distrust and not believing who people are and not really allowing yourself to be
loved.
um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Not allowing that, not allowing yourself to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I used to say all the time, and I still won't. Unfortunately, I've become from these situations a little bit jaded. But I don't allow myself to be comfortable because when you get, part of it also is too for business. When
Right.
you get
Right.
comfortable, there's no growth. My tattoos on me are reminders of every scar, pain, because in my mind is I don't want to forget them because that's what drives me to grow.
Awesome.
Okay.
Love it.
But while all that's weighing down on you, that's when the depression starts to bite in.
Yeah.
That's when that begins to attack you from the inside. And you make poor decisions in relationships, you make poor decisions for yourself, whether that's me, I'm a eater. I love to eat food when I'm stressed out. So,
Mm.
dumped on probably 30 pounds, which is not healthy.
Right.
Um,
That's a
so,
valid point. That's a valid point. Everyone's got their thing too when they feel that, and they're like,
right,
whether it's food, alcohol, other vices.
right,
It's
right,
it's
substance
valid. It's
abuse,
valid. Yeah, very
right.
valid. Yeah.
So, it took a while, to dig myself out of that hole. And honestly, it only really happened recently for me. It happened last year, where I said, I'm not gonna do this anymore.
Yeah.
And
What was your aha moment? Like when you were going through that down shit. Like what was the aha moment? You were like, you know what?
I mean, if you really want me to put it out there, it's probably not good for me, but I sat in my bathtub of my house with a 9 millimeter in my mouth,
Damn.
and the only thing that stopped me is my sister, who I owe her pretty much everything about keeping me in one piece at this point. Was that if I did this, she didn't get my life insurance policy, and but I'm not gonna lie, it's the stupid shit that pulls you out of it.
No,
Uh,
and I wouldn't
you
say it's
know,
stupid at all, bro. I would say that that's
and
definitely life changing.
so I got up out of my tub. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I called my sister. I said, I'm on the way to you. She's like, what's the matter? And I showed up at her house 3 hours
Ah,
later. And, she's like, all right. She's like, what do you want to do? And I said, this is the plan. I'm selling everything. I'm going to go disappear for a month and go figure out my shit. And, hopefully I come back from it, and, like I said, when you release yourself of all the burdens, because I
yep,
sold my house, I had no mortgage, I didn't have to be home.
yep,
I didn't have, it was me, my motorcycle, the road, and
yeah.
I
Freedom.
went as far as I wanted to go that day and didn't the other days. But in that moment in time, I woke up. For my 40th birthday, my sister threw me this gigantic party. My friends
Oh,
came down from New York, and I said, I can't. My sister knows all my shit, and I'm like, she's like, you can't keep doing this to yourself. And I said, I know, I got to stop. I said, because either I'm going to lose myself, or that's just the way it's going to go. And what wound up happening was, I just said, you know what, enough, I'm done, and I'm not going to let this get the best of me. And then, like I said, I went away, cleared my head, came back, bought a house, put
all
my
right, wait,
life
wait,
back.
so hold on. When you went away and you took these trips, I'm sure there was visceral moments of just like
Oh,
clarity and
I
right?
cried. I cried while I was riding. I'm not gonna let I cried while I was riding my motorcycle. I laughed. I talked to myself. Pulled over on the side of the road. Took stupid pictures. I
You had
camped.
fun. You
I
enjoyed
had
being.
I had a bull. You know what? I I worked out all my shit. Oh
Mm.
well, let's say 85% of it.
90%,
But enough.
94.
But enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, but it was therapeutic, and once
Beautiful,
again,
bro.
you're a fellow motorcycle rider. They say that when you're having a bad day, get some screen, windshield time, or let the wind run through your hair. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I rode to Vegas, met up with some friends there. We rode to Grand Canyon, went to 14 national parks. We went all the
Yeah.
way up to Glacier National Park.
Yeah. There's no way that you didn't come back from that trip like enlightened.
Yeah.
You see,
No, it was I you know what I the worst part is I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to come back. I wanted to
Yeah.
keep going. But you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
But like I said, I knew once I got back, it was go time.
Cool.
I had to remember I had to nut the fuck up and remember who I was.
Yeah.
And I
Do you have those nuts tattooed on you anyway?
no, but I got
Yeah.
this is a
The line?
lion, and
Yeah, the
that's
line's
that's to make
badass.
sure I never forget.
Yeah,
But
it's fucking awesome.
sometimes you got to remind yourself who as the stupid saying goes, you got to remind yourself who the fuck you are, and that's
I
uh,
love it, dude.
that's that's what we're doing now. So,
You
but
goddamn
no,
right, dude. Everybody listening is excited right now. Let's go out there and crush it, people. Let's go get this
um,
fucking. Let's go get it. That's great.
but I gotta say, my first full year in business, just to kudos is we're gonna break probably 950.
God damn.
Next year, we're gonna push for at least 1,500,000, 1,700,000 in sales and growth. Um, like I said, the goals will, once again, I just keep stacking goals. And once we hit one, now we're going to hit another.
Yeah.
And, that's that. And what keeps me going is to, quote Andrew Tate, as much as people may not like that, is nobody cares, work harder. Nobody gives a shit. Just keep working harder,
Right.
and that's when I'm having a bad day or I'm feeling down, that's what I say to myself. No one cares. Work harder. You know, let the best revenge is success, and
Mm,
that's what I focus on. Not that I'm looking for revenge, but I want to be successful.
right.
I don't ever want to stop. So
So,
got to hit those goals.
yeah. Now this is, and so I guess this driving factor of continuing to hit these goals does this come from childhood? Like always making sure that like to show like, hey, mom, dad, here's what I can do. Here's what I'm doing. Here's the
So
person I've
so
become.
okay, so all right, so I always wanted my father was a self-made man, very 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 smart individual. He was extremely extremely smart in the industry he was in, which was in the septic industry on the island, on Long Island. Made himself a boatload of money. And yes, I chased that dragon for a very long time. I always wanted my father to be proud of me. Moms are always, okay, cool. You drew a smile on the wall. I'm proud of
I
you.
love it,
But
kid.
I always wanted to be my father's peer.
Yeah.
And once again, not just be his peer. Then, of course, at one point, obviously, succeed him.
Right.
But I realized that only goes so far. And it was more for me. I wanted it. I wanted to see how far I could push myself, how I could better myself. And once again, that's through trials and tribulations of life. You get held back here and there.
Yeah.
I always say to people, is I'm 3 years behind because I should have been on my game already. But like I said, I had a
Yeah.
non-compete holding me
Likewise,
back for
bro. I
3 years.
know. I'm
You
like,
know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So, my father was a millionaire at 27. And by millionaire, I mean his business made his first $1 million by 27. I wasn't until I think 31.
Damn. That's great though.
And once again, not me, not my personal finances. I mean the
Right. But the
business.
business, which is still a
You
feat.
know, right? But it's I don't know. I've always been blessed with this drive of, but it's also, what I gotta be honest with you, it's also a curse because you can't fill that void.
Mm,
Nothing's ever enough, no matter, um, and I lived I have to remind myself I live a very, very blessed life.
yeah.
But it's a burden. I'm sorry. What's the
It's like a double-edged sword, basically.
yeah, yeah. It's an amazing thing to have, but it's also a burden because you're never happy, and
Now, do you want to work on that?
well, here's the thing, and
Yeah.
let me explain this to you, is if it's, I guess I view it as if I become happy, I'm going to become stagnant, right? You're
Mm,
not going to have a goal anymore. So whatever, I'm not a Ferrari car guy, but if I wanted a Ferrari and then I bought a Ferrari, now I want a Lamborghini, it's the same thing here.
yeah.
I mean, for me it was motorcycles. I bought a Road Glide. All
Yeah.
right. Then I wanted a lowrider. Okay, I bought that. Okay, now I'm into, a business. Okay, cool. I got two vans on the road. Now I want three.
Yeah.
It's, to me, is that you're gonna get, I don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
I gotta, but I do, but what you have to do, or what I have to do, is I gotta tone that back in my relationships.
Mm,
That,
right.
because it affects me across the board.
Yeah.
I
Right.
gotta learn, I gotta learn to be happy in my relationships.
Yeah. 100%.
But that's more where I'd want to learn how to be happy with it.
Ah,
Not in
or
business. I don't want business to be affected
or
by
not
that.
happy, but more fulfilled, right?
But
Because you
right.
get right. Yeah. Right.
Relationship wise, I don't want to be happy in business. I
Yeah.
want to keep.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
that to say, hey, look, you know what? 5 vans ain't enough. I want six. I
Yeah.
want that.
Yeah.
But relationship wise, yeah, I gotta learn how to be fulfilled in my
The
relationships.
world
That's
and
rough.
everything in it.
Yeah.
The world, Chico, and everything
Yeah,
in
exactly.
it. That's cool,
That's it.
man. That's good. Okay, so understanding that, I guess on the relationship side, what is it that like you're, I guess, right. So the thing for me is like always being able to identify. Like if you can identify these things, that means you're on the path. You're on the journey to actually hitting that goal.
Right.
What's your thought around that? Like, what do you see? How to start? moving towards that in terms of relationship and being fulfilled in that aspect?
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I won't lie, I'm not sure. It's
Okay.
been,
Something you're
it's
working on.
well, yeah, but it's for me, or I should say, for me, it's different focuses in different parts of your life. Right now, I'm business focused, and I know that's probably wrong to say because you shouldn't let your relationship take the back burner. But at the same time, it's like, hey, I like the lights on, I like the car I drive, and I
Yeah.
like this other stuff. But at the same time, in life, you have to make sure your partner's fulfilled and getting the things that they want to.
Yeah, right.
um, which is like I said. I mean, I guess I've always struggled with that in my life because, like I said, that not being happy with what I have in business affects my life back here. Um, it's I don't know how to find that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, but
You're working on it.
it's something to try to work on and strive every day. And sometimes sometimes it pops in my head like, hey man, just shut up and enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
some things don't need to be said, and
No,
it's
that's
not
great. Dude, that's
you know
awesome. Yeah.
not all the time, but
Right. But you're doing
uh,
it, which again means that you're making these strides and taking these actions to actually change that part of, you know,
right.
that aspect of yourself, that vertical of what makes you you, which is great.
But yeah, and some days you have big wins, and other days, not so much. So.
Great, dude. Okay, cool. So look, we probably have a couple minutes left. What a story, bro. What a story. I just want to, if I can reach over and give you a hug, I'd give you a hug, man. That's really fucking awesome. Really great. And I'm so happy that you were able to, dig deep and actually share some of those things with, because I'm sure some listeners deal with something similar. I know I've talked to some listeners that do deal with certain aspects that are very similar to that.
Yeah.
And to be able to give that, I commend you for sharing that and putting it out there. Let me ask, in terms of routines, do you have any morning routines or nighttime routines to either get you
So
psyched up
so
or
that
psyched
that's
down?
what that's what I'm working on. My business in New York. Every morning I woke up, I came to my office at 7:50, got my men out the door by 9. I was at the gym. So now that life, and as you've seen me from the beginning, from when I started my business, first started coming to BNI, me and you saying like, oh, we got to hang out. I'm like, oh, I can't. I'm in the trucks. I'm in the truck. So now that I'm starting to get some traction with the business, men in the trucks, I'm able to once again have freed up a little bit of my time, network, etc.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to start putting myself back into the place of, hey, look, every morning I wake up, get my men out the door, 9:30 at the gym, hit the gym, whatever, hard or whatever. Now that I'm 40, now maybe not so much as when I was 30, but look, get myself on my routine, get to the
God
gym,
damn you all.
right, be there for an hour,
Yeah.
hammer it out, do my normal, Monday through Thursday routine and take Friday off.
Cool.
Start eating healthier. And because, look, I mean, I won't lie. When I was banging at the top of my game, when I was, at my other business, it's the truth what they say: healthy mind, healthy body, and even healthy spirit. I've taken, not to get religious, I've taken a uh, quite a hiatus from my, I'm Catholic, from
You
going to
spiritual?
church, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But I truly believe in those three factors: healthy mind, healthy body, healthy spirit. Look, it makes you a better, me as a man, I would say a better person. It also allows you to find your focus, whether on whatever you're doing, whether that's, whether you're bagging groceries or you're an entrepreneur, having that focus helps you really refine that drive and, helps you explore, um, different things, like the thing, like I say, learning to be happier with relationships, or learning to, just be happy in that moment. It really calms the inner beast because you're more, your mind's clear. It's basically the equivalent of jumping on my motorcycle and riding
Yeah.
from,
Right.
which, hey, we're gonna go do that too. But
Yeah, I can't
you
wait.
know, but no, that's the routine I'm putting in place now. Unfortunately, I had an accident, as you know, and I need shoulder surgery, so that kind of hinders it. But that's the routine I'm putting back together. And
Cool.
that's the goal.
What about at night? Do you have a nighttime routine? Because here's one thing that I realized. If I don't wind down, or if I don't like close the thoughts in my head before I actually lay down, I don't feel as good in the morning. Like I wake up not as rested or ready to go. So one thing that I've realized is, I'm like, okay, let me do a self audit before I go to bed. what's
Right.
still in my head, like with the person in call, the email didn't get sent, like what are these things that are holding me like you still, and then I try to give it enough space and time to close them. So that way at night, I'm like, I do my tea, I do my water, sometimes I do a protein shake beforehand, and then like I pass out and I feel like amazing the next day. Do you have anything like that?
So I mean, like I said, for me, because my business is constantly going, 5 o'clock, that's it, I'm done. I don't answer emails. I don't, whether it's I don't even look at them on my phone. If so,
That's great.
I don't answer 'em. And then, like I said, I mean, I try to be in bed by 10:30 the latest. Showered in bed. What I do to help me fall asleep. Honestly, I like history, so I listen to Ancient Aliens or something about
That's
ancient
cool.
Egypt. Wind my mind down that way. That
That's awesome, dude.
kind of
That's exactly,
you
yeah.
know. So
That's
it's
cool,
just
man.
a chill way to go to bed. Or once again, it depends. Or I'll throw on if I really am overthinking that night. I'll put on the thunder or the rain,
Dude, that's awesome,
the
dude. I do.
soundtrack and go away, go to sleep
Yeah.
that way.
I sometimes do the
Yeah.
Native American flute with rain.
There you go. There you go. There you
That's
go.
cool. All right, man. And do you listen to books, read books, or like
So yes. So my favorite book is, I gotta look. I know exactly what it is because I listened to it over and over again. I love this book.
cool.
And I try to
You
tell.
listen to them?
Yes, I
I'm
do
gonna
book
send
on.
you one too. I like the have you listened to The Power of Now?
No, do I have that? I feel like I have that
You think you
physical
have it?
book, but
I'm gonna,
but I'll tell you this, I'll download it because I'm a books on tape guy.
okay, yeah, me
Because when
too.
I drive, because I'm driving a lot.
Yeah.
But the book I tell everybody is it's called Relentless: From Good to Great to Unstoppable.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Great.
that book is off the charts. It tells you a lot about um, who you are, who your type personality is, et cetera, et cetera. But I,
Awesome.
I love that book. I listen to it. I don't know. I try to listen to it once, twice a year, just to remind myself of the
Yeah.
mindset I have, and that what it explains in that book is that there's different levels. Okay, and it talks specifically about basketball, Michael Jordan, Kobe, and about how Michael Jackson basically was get on my level, or part of my language, get the fuck out of my way.
Yeah.
You're either on my level or you're in my way. That's
Love
it.
it. Yeah.
And there's not and it also explains there's nothing wrong with being that way.
Hmm.
And I explained that, I used to explain that to my men, my office staff, is you gotta get on my level, guys. You gotta get on my. You want to make money, you want to be top, you want top pay. You gotta get yourself up. You have to raise yourself up and be above everybody
Yeah,
else.
love it.
And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with being that way. And that's honestly a lot of the times. Um, how I run my personal life is either you got to be on my level or I don't want to deal with you. You know.
Look out my way. That's right. It's goddamn right. All right. Well, so let's close it up with this. If you have a couple of words that you wanted to say, somebody that was potentially feeling, or going through something similar that you went through, what's something that you would say to them?
Thing I'd say to them is, and it's the honest truth, where you are today will be entirely different a year from now. And it won't make a difference because guess what? A year from now, you're going to be smarter, you'll be faster, you'll be stronger. And you'll look back at those trials and tribulations and you'll be like, give me something harder because that was nothing. And that's the honest truth. That is the honest truth. And
That's right.
once you reach that point, nothing can get you down.
Boom. Put your fucking head down and let's go, everybody. You heard it here
That's
first
it.
from my homie John. Let's go. Mangano. Mangano. That's right. You heard it here. That's how you pronounce it. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. John, appreciate your time, man. That was awesome. I can't wait to hang out
Yeah,
with you
man.
again.
Thank you for
And
having me.
don't forget, homies, nothing changes until you do. Remember, it's the thoughts in our head. It's the influence, the thought, the emotion, the action, the decision. And ultimately, that brings us to that next outcome. Just like John said, go fucking get it. You get to my level, raise it up, or if not, get the fuck out my way. And don't forget, nothing changes until you do. Until the next time, we'll see you guys again soon. Peace.